Revive Church. This is Pastor Susang, and I made this little video so that we can inform you about what we're going to do, as I'm sure many of you are curious about with respect to all that's going on in this extraordinary time concerning the coronavirus. So, steering your leaders, we met tonight and we made the difficult and momentous decision to suspend our usual worship gathering together in our usual worship services through the end of the month. So that will be 3 Sundays at least through March 29th. We know this is not easy, and this is not the way God really intended church to be, that it's a really special thing when God's people gather together corporately and the Holy Spirit's in the midst of us. But this is an extraordinary time, and we want to obey our government and our leaders and to help, contribute and love our neighbors to stop the spread of the virus, especially those who are at the highest risk, the elderly and those with existing conditions. So that's why we have made this decision. But so what we will do is we're going to have a live stream worship service starting at 4 o'clock at our usual time. We will share the link with you. Please share it with everybody in our church, and so that everybody knows about this. That live stream will be recorded and it'll be available for about 1 day. So for whatever reason, if you can't quite get there at 4 o'clock, it'll still be available for a short period of time. But after that, we'll take that off. But the sermon video and the audio will still be available to you as usual. In addition, we want to do a couple other things. This is going to be hard because, all this social distancing is going to require a lot of us to stay isolated from each other. And this is certainly not God's will for us. That normally we want to be together and to love each other and fellowship together. And so one of the things we'd like to ask some of you to do, if you're up for this, if you're not showing any symptoms, and if you, you feel that you're not at risk or putting anybody else at risk to this, we'd like to ask some of you to consider inviting either somebody over or gathering together, like maybe a couple households, and watch and worship and sing together in the live stream, to take this less than optimal way of worshiping and make it better. So that's one option we'd like some of you to consider, and you can talk to somebody else in the church and arrange that. A second option is maybe you feel like if you're not ready or able to meet in person, perhaps you can contact somebody else digitally, or at the very least by a conference call. And then when you sing, you'll hear each other's voices and we'll praise the Lord together. So think about ways, in this time when we're going to be separated from each other, to creatively be together, even though we may not be able to physically gather together. Some other things I want to cover. What about the children? So what we're going to do is Pastor Joe is going to pre-record the children's service, and we will make that available to you. And then, so at an appropriate, at some other time, those of you with K through 6 children can watch that service together, and the children can be blessed by Pastor Joe as they normally would. And so, obviously, this isn't the best, but that's how we're going to do it. We're also going to do something else. We're going to ask a couple of some people to come into the church so that it wouldn't be such a completely empty thing. It'll still be a worship service, even though it's a small gathering. So, typical Sunday may be one family and maybe half of a GLF or something like that, so that the praise team, and then whoever's the preacher and the presider, we're not standing in front of an empty room. And for those groups, we're going to ask if you have young children that you not bring them. So just those few people we're going to try to ask those who don't have young children. So the children won't be coming to church during this period, and so they'll be continuing to worship through the children's worship recording. Okay. For those of you, many of you already do this for offering. Please do so online. The GLS are encouraging you to meet through maybe either Google Meet or through Zoom. And of course, for those of you who have been signed up for refreshment, you don't have to do that during this period. I just want to conclude with the word. Please, please, please don't neglect the fellowship. Even though you may not be able to gather together, please call each other, encourage each other, pray for each other. If you meet virtually, if you think you can, meet in person and continue to spur each other on, and especially be mindful that this could be a time when we are already a lonely city. It can get worse. And the last thing I would like to ask, please pray for all the churches, especially in the Bay Area. All this week long, I've not only been praying for our church and praying for this decision and all the difficulties that are going ahead, and of course praying for people who are ill or vulnerable, but also praying for Trinity, praying for other PCA churches in the Bay Area, pray for like our friends, friends of our church, like the Spectrum Church. So please pray for them as they go through this too. If you have any other questions, feel free to contact Sting or any of the pastors, and I will put up a summary of this by email as well. All right, love you. And I can't wait for us to all gather together and this all to pass and to worship like we always do. All right, bye-bye.